Super Rugby quarterfinals are in the bag, folks, for the 2024 season. All the home teams won. First word that kind of comes to mind with this week's quarterfinals, this season's quarterfinals, would probably be lopsided. 22-point win, 27-point win, 31-point win, and then the close one was a 16-point win. So, part of me thinks kind of maybe less is more. Maybe you don't need 8 teams going into the playoffs. This is the third season of Super Rugby Pacific, where we've had 8 from 12 teams making it, and it's the third year in a row none of the teams who were the away teams managed to get a win. Other seasons we have had closer games, like the Brumbies got pushed by the Hurricanes last year. It was only a 4-point win. And I remember the Chiefs only beat the Reds by like 9 points. The season before, I think the Brumbies beat the Hurricanes by 10. So we don't really get many games that go down to the wire in the quarterfinals, which I think is not great. It's not a great look. Like the first game was supposed to be the close one, 4-5, and that was a proper hiding. But you guys can let me know your thoughts on the finals format. Obviously, with the Rebels going out at the end of the season, which is pretty much now. There's been talk that next season will be 6 teams making it through, with the top 2 resting for the opening round, and then the bottom 4 of the qualifying teams playing each other. I think that'd be an improvement because, like I said, not a lot of investment in these games. Like, we will go through some of the kind of try scorers and the score lines and whatnot, plus the upcoming fixtures. But yeah, I don't mean to be a negative Nelly, but there was just no tension in any of these games. I just went to my nephew's birthday party and there was other parents there and I was dressed in Blues gear. Nobody was talking about rugby. Me and my old man talked a little bit about rugby, but yeah, there's no real talking points about games which don't finish, with any kind of close ones. So yeah, nobody was talking any rugby. But the first one was the Chiefs against the Reds. Like I said, it was the one that on paper looked like it was going to be the close one. And then the Chiefs just go ahead and give you a 31-0 lead at halftime. Game was over at halftime. Tokiaho got 2, Narawa got 1, Nana Saturo got 1. They were absolutely putting the Reds to the sword. The Reds were certainly shell-shocked. They did win the second half, the Reds. They won at 21-12. McDermott got a couple and Crichton got 1, but it was way too little too late. At least they kept fighting. You did do a bit of pride in the jersey. It's your last game of the season. I would say overall, the Reds season has been a positive. Like, even if they got to the same point of the season last year, and they didn't get a hiding last year, the storyline, I think the course of the season, the guys that have been coming through, I still feel like is an overall net positive for the Reds. But certainly a big result for the Chiefs because their form had been a little bit questionable going into this game. But now they certainly look back at like a kind of pre-season red hot, one of the potential upset teams in terms of the semi-finals. Like, if they win their semi, I don't think it would be a surprise. It would be, it would be a good result for them. The second game, the Hurricanes against the Rebels, was certainly a closer story at halftime. Like, this was the one that on paper looked like was going to be the absolute drubbing. If you were picking a 31-0 scoreline at halftime, you'd have probably picked Hurricanes Rebels. Only 14-6 at halftime. But then the Canes ran in 33 points in the second half. Obviously, the Rebels, with them basically not in the competition next year, the guys had a fair bit to play for, to put a bit of pride back into the jersey, which is soon going to be a collector's item. And they, as I said, they did it well for the first half, but they just couldn't keep up for the second. I mean, Tossi and Morby got a couple of tries for the Canes in the first half. Anderson got a couple for the Rebels in the second within a couple of minutes of each other. Just when you think like the game is pretty much beyond the Rebels. But, I mean, Yosei, he's having a cracking season. He got 1. Almua likewise. Flanders, Karifi, and then the Holo gets it. So, yeah, 47-20 was kind of one of the predicted score lines for that one. I mean, if you're looking at the stats, some of the key stats for the Canes is their attack, man. 9 clean breaks to 3, 36 defenders beaten to 12, and a whole heap of possession. They will certainly be dangerous. But that being said, I forgot to mention the Chiefs. they tackled at 92% in their game. Like when you're looking at a 31-0 halftime record, I mean, you're obviously looking at the 31, but you've also got to pay attention to that nil. They absolutely shut down the Reds. Have got a pretty good team. So, yeah, that's going to be a heck of a semi-final number one. Blues against Drua. Drua haven't won away all season. It was looking like an uphill battle for them, and so it proved to be. They certainly had a better second half than first half. They were kind of like the Reds, kind of shell-shocked in the first. 22-0. Come halftime, they were short of ball, short of territory, but second half they certainly got a lot more. Second half was still the Blues by 14-5, but the Drua was certainly in the game a lot more in the second half. Like it was just kind of going through the motions in the first, sadly. Papali'i, Christie, and Clark got on the board in the first. Clark got a late one as well, and plus Eklund got himself on the board in the second. Ravu Tamanda got the only points of the game for the Drua. The Drua conceded 15 penalties, man. It's always going to be an uphill battle when you're under that kind of pump, under the referee's whistle. The Blues conversely only conceded 7, which is pretty good. Anytime teams keep it under 10, they're usually pretty satisfied with their efforts. So yeah, I don't think any of those 3 teams that I've mentioned thus far had perfect 80-minute performances, but all of them had patches where they looked way stronger than their opponents. Chiefs and Blues particularly in the first half, Hurricanes particularly in the second. And in the final game, the close one, the Brumbies up against the Highlanders, 32-16, 17-16 at half time, like proper game, not quite like a bit closer obviously than the Hurricanes Rebels one, but yeah, then another kind of scoreless half. It's the second half which proves the difference, 15-0 for the Brumbies in that second half. Brumbies will be worried though, man, because their scrum was looking bang average. They conceded a lot of scrum penalties. The Highlanders were able to keep the scoreboard ticking over. We actually saw in this game a scrum called from a free kick, which is something that's going to be changed. Remember with those law changes, you're not going to see scrums from a mark. Well, it was a mark, it was a free kick. So yeah, scrums from free kicks are going to be gone, but particularly the ones from the marks, which are pretty unusual. We saw one back at the World Cup. The Highlanders did it in this game. They got a mark in their own 22. They called for a scrum because their scrum would be dominant. And then they didn't try to milk the penalty. They just immediately cleared the ball. It was bizarre, but it was just something that you won't be able to see in a couple of months' time as those laws are changing. But yeah, 13 penalties conceded by the Brumbies. 7 of them were from the props. So yeah, certainly, like I'll tell you, I don't think they conceded any. But on the loose head side, they were getting bossed around. So Nadeki gets the 1 try for the Landers, but Muirhead gets a couple, and he was in absolutely sublime form. The Brumbies was playing some pretty nice rugby, but then also Pollard gets a couple for the Brumbies too. So Maul still looks pretty good. Yeah, clean breaks 8-1. Their backs certainly get themselves into some action. 16-point win for the Brumbies at the end of the day. So they will travel to Eden Park to play the Blues. And the Hurricanes will host the Chiefs. I know it's kind of a dumb idea, but part of me really wishes the top qualifying teams could pick their opponents. I think that would make it a little bit spicy, because I'm sure, based on these results, no offense, Brumbies, but I reckon if the Hurricanes had the choice of who they would play in their semi-final, they would pick the Brumbies. They wouldn't want to be facing the Chiefs. The Blues will host the Brumbies. Remember, the Blues put the Brumbies to the sword in the regular season at Eden Park. The Brumbies have looked a much stronger team at home. Away record's all right, but at home they're undefeated, I believe, this season. Whereas, the Hurricanes take on the Chiefs, and the Chiefs, based on that performance, will be looking right dangerous. I don't know. I just feel like it would add a little bit of extra spice, a little bit of extra storyline. I mean, hell, the Hurricanes could even pick the Blues if they'd wanted to. You know what I mean? Pick from the teams below you. But anyway, it's probably a bit weird to be adding to rugby, but it would certainly be a bit spicy. But you guys let us know your thoughts. The average winning margin, these quarterfinals, 24 points. I feel like it's a bit much. 8 qualifying teams, a bit much. I mean, even if we'd had fewer teams qualifying, like I said, the Reds only 1 position below the Chiefs, getting beaten by 22 points was unexpected, but I don't think in the crowd numbers or just my interactions today have exactly highlighted the buy-in for the quarterfinals the way they currently are. But anyway, you guys let us know your thoughts. If you want to watch the semi-finals, the final of Super Rugby on Flow Sports, if you're in the States, link down in the description. They've also got the URC finals, which are coming up as well. But yeah, you guys take care, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.